Welcome to the village board meeting, May 7th, 2020. We'll start the meeting with a pledge of the flag. Megan has the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. That's probably not the smoothest that's ever been done, but we did it.
Never gets old.
Can I get a motion to approve the village board meeting minutes from April 16th, 2020?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion, changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We don't have set up for citizens' comments, but if anybody wants to, they can go on the live broadcast on our village site and underneath make a comment if you want, and we will get back to you. We'll go to trustees' comments. We'll start with Ruth Seco.
Hi, I'm just hoping everybody is well and safe, but I just stick with the agenda for tonight. Thanks.
Okay. Megan?
Just the agenda.
Andy?
Just the agenda.
You're much brighter tonight.
I fixed it.
Mike?
Just the agenda, unless somebody can tell me where Chief gets his haircut, because I really need one.
And not supposed to be getting haircuts, so let's don't divulge that. Mark?
That's it.
I will request an executive session to
Okay.
update the board on a contract negotiation. And other than that, I will stick with the agenda.
Okay. And Bruce?
You're on mute,
You're on mute.
Bruce.
Come on, the agenda's still fine.
There you go. Okay. All right. Mayor's comments. For you three who are up for election, village election, September 15th, for now at least. Not a whole lot of detail on whether there'll be absentee ballots like some of the other elections they're talking about, but at least you have a date. And as things start to happen a little bit into the summer, we'll have a better idea. The governor also approved having school elections and budget vote on June 9th. And I believe that's going to be a mail ballots out to residents and with the postage guaranteed. And then the Board of Elections was told to have the primaries on June 23rd, including Democratic primary, which had been eliminated, but now has been put back on. And again, that's going to be vote from home. So the courts getting on with things as far as village operation. The courts, it's up in the air from what everybody seems to know. We met with NICOM the other day, the mayors did, and the general consensus, somebody said the end of the month, and somebody said that they had received a letter from the unified court system that it was going to be sometime in August, which is considerably different than the end of the month. So at this point, we have nobody being brought into court in Baldwinsville. There's nobody working. There's no court on Wednesday night. So for at least for the time being, that's not changing. I'm sure, Mike, you'll probably hear about it before I do, but at this point, there's no defined return date. So Ryan McMahon had guessed the end of phase 2 of the 4-phase introduction of business back into society. You know, phase 1 is going to be landscaping, construction, manufacturing, things like that. Phase 2 is going to be that was one of the thoughts he thought would be courts would come back under phase 2 with strict guidelines. In other words, there'd be a waiting line one person in the courtroom at a time, and everybody, and I don't know if you've been around on Wednesday nights for court, but sometimes there's 60, 70 people down there. That would be interesting, having them all waiting out in the parking lot and trying to keep distance. And I mean, the ones that are there for a reason. They don't obey the law, a lot of them. So now if you tell them to stay 6 feet apart, that might be a lot of fun. So we'll see how that all works out. I had made a request. I do a live feed on Wednesdays with Shelley Hoffman. The chief does one on Monday. Bob Wicks does one on Tuesday. Just try to keep people informed. What's going on? What's new within the village? Some of them, we had 2 or 3 people on Facebook complaining about their brush didn't get picked up. And I said to my wife, I'll bet the stuff was in a can. And she read and she said, yep, that's exactly what happened. They had 2 cans out one week, and then the next time they had 4 cans. I said, well, the next time they better have 6, because we're not getting out of our trucks and dumping them. I've mentioned it on I think 3 of the last 4 sessions with Shelley. It's been on Facebook page. I don't know about the website, but it may have been on there. And this person said, well, I don't read this and I don't go on the website. And it's like, well, why wouldn't you make a phone call to the DPW and ask why your trash didn't get, or brush didn't get picked up? So again, if anybody's watching us live now, please don't put stuff out in can. If you want to put out in a can on Friday and it sits there till Monday, and you want to go out Sunday night at 10 o'clock at night and dump it, it'll get picked up. If you leave it in the can, it won't get picked up. We don't want our guys getting out of trucks, touching other people's cans. So there you go. And in that session, I've asked a couple times now for businesses to send me messages about how they're doing. I'm just kind of curious as to how some of our businesses in the village are surviving. I've heard some good stories. I know Angry Garlic has been pretty busy. I know that the cottage and the diner had closed, and they've both since reopened. But I got a feedback from Pizza Man, Sal's, Atlantic Seafood, and the Sweet Dream Candy Shop. The first 3 doing very well. Chris Whiteman at Atlantic Seafood says every week is Lent. I mean, he said it's been amazing. They keep running out of fish. There's so many people coming. Everybody's been waiting in line like they've asked them to. Nobody complaining. Sal's said he's down about 15% because of the dining room being closed. But because of takeout and pickup has been so much more, that they've kept it to only a 15% loss, and he's got about 80% of his people working. They're doing quite well, and couldn't say enough nice things about the support from the community. Pizza Man, they're about 50% of their people working. I know that old friend Jim Pelcher had been laid off in the beginning when this first happened. He got called back to work because their online, they went to an online ordering system in addition to telephones, and it's really increased their business. And so they brought Pelch back in to help in the morning getting stuff prepped for the pizza business. So it's very comforting, rewarding to hear that we've got businesses that were prepared and have done well. The candy shop's a little different. It's not as, you don't have to have candy. I mean, some people do, but you have to eat dinner. And so people are ordering out, but she said people have been pretty good. Their support has been good. And all these businesses are so connected to the community. She said she put together, I think, 12 packages of goodies. And I think the police department might have gotten one, the fire department, the ambulance corps, and then the rest of them went to the hospitals. So here's a business, struggling a little bit to keep its head above water and still thinking about contributing to the first responders and thanking them. So it's the best of people comes out most of the time. Fortunately, we haven't seen the worst of it around here. Some places we have. There has been reports of some not so nice behavior, but at least around Baldwinsville, it's been pretty good. And one thing it was emphatically stated, this is for all of you are around the community talking to people, no garage sales. There's no way that they think that anybody can do it and pull it off in a safe way. So just, if anybody asks you, at this point, at least, there's no garage sales allowed. And I know there were some last weekend, and the county executive got a report on it. The question came up with the county executive about, you go to the stores, they have signs up to say, wear face masks. People say, I don't have a face mask. Well, okay, you can come in. That's not supposed to happen. Obviously, not everybody plays by the same rules. He said, if you have a business that has people coming in like that and you don't have, they're saying they don't have face masks, the county will get you some cloth masks that you can hand to people as they come to the door. So if anybody in the community, I could see Ace Hardware, somebody like that, Bville Supply, could run into that situation. So if you know any of those people, just let them know, get a hold of the county executive's office and somebody will get you some masks. That's all I have. We'll move on to department heads. We'll start with our attorney, Bob.
I'll stick with the agenda, Mayor.
Okay. Codes office, Greg.
Just want to remind everybody that we're open. We do have people calling and pulling permits. Monday and Tuesday, the phone was ringing off the hook all day long. Yesterday and today, not as much, but a lot of people interested in getting their projects started. And so we've got fences and decks being built. Somebody called about getting a pool, but they're not ready to start installing pools yet. But we can get that permit paperwork in and at least get the ball rolling on our end.
Now, I did ask Greg to contact all of our participants in the Main Street program because we did get the agreement from the county. I have signed it and returned it to Ryan McMahon for him to sign. And I wanted them, all the businesses, to get in touch with Steve so that we can set up their work contracts. And Steve has worked it out with Shelley Hoffman already, but that's the only one. So if any of business people are watching and you're part of that Main Street thing, you need to get a hold of Steve D'Arcangelo and make sure you have your contracts drawn up, and he will help you with whatever you need help with. Anything else, Greg?
Well, you know, on that same note, I spoke with a couple of the, actually 3 of the facade grant recipients this week, and hopefully they're going to be getting a hold of Steve to get everything finalized. They're looking forward to moving forward. Some of them are having a little trouble finding contractors that are available to give quotes, but you know, we've got to find those people out there to get quotes from. So
that's what we're hoping this next phase, this phase 1 will include those people. You mentioned something, did you want to give us any information on what you knew about the Red Mill?
yeah, it looks like right now the Red Mill Inn is working with an architect to start some work at the Red Mill Inn. It is a senior living facility that they're looking to start, so it is an essential. So they would be allowed to start some construction there. They're looking at replacing the deck that faces the river. So they're working with Dean Johnson, the head of the ARB. He's doing some design work for that project.
Very good. Good to know something's happening.
Right.
All right. We'll move on to our village clerk, Mo.
No, everything is going well. If anyone has any questions, just give us a call and at Village Hall. And if anyone has any payments, just put it in the Dropbox or mail it. Same as last time.
All righty. We'll move on now to the senior center. Ruth?
Well, just the staff is still reaching out to the seniors to make contact and respond to any needs they have. And folks seem to really appreciate that connection and knowing that there's someone looking out for them. Also, we continue to have daily contact with the Office for Aging, and they've been responding to anything that we're not quite sure how to answer. So that's been helpful. So please call the center if there's anything on your mind or any concerns. We'd be happy to get you to the right people. One thing I do want to mention, and I had a couple of calls about the economic impact stimulus payment, and seniors worried that it will affect their eligibility for other federal programs, and it does not. So just want to reassure people of that your SNAP, your housing subsidy, et cetera, is not affected by the stimulus impact payments. So just want to share that. And want to thank the other community organizations who have been great in looking out for our seniors, and I know other folks through this crisis. And that's it.
Very good. And I hope our residents, I know most of the people I talk to, trying to find people that they know that don't have much family around, or family can't come and see them, and just, stop by. My sister came by today and set a chair out. We've set it about 15 feet down the sidewalk, and we talked for an hour and laughed, and it was a nice day. So you can still see people, but keep those distances legal. So, all right, we'll move on to Public Works. Steve.
Similar to what Ruth and Mo said, we are open for business. Call if you have any questions regarding road work, drainage, sewer, water issues. We have been working on a reduced workforce for the last 6.5 weeks. As of Monday, we will be full DPW workforce, working full hours. So you'll see more people on the street. And if you need anything done in particular, feel free to give us a call. We'll take care of it.
Very good. Thanks, Steve. And move on to the police. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. We've had several calls recently about people wanting to be fingerprinted. Certain jobs require that for a background check. Due to the coronavirus, our agency, along with just about every other one, has instituted a policy where we've suspended that service. We're not bringing people into the police department for obvious reasons. Even arrestees. There's only been a couple of occasions since this has started where we brought an arrestee back to the police department simply because we've had to. Domestic disputes requiring an order of protection and a DWI arrest. Other than that, we are issuing people appearance tickets and plan to fingerprint and photograph them at a later time when it's safe, not only for them, but especially for our officers. So those services.
Do we have any
convenience, but I certainly hope people can understand the reasoning behind that.
Any uptick in crime? Is it down? I mean, what are things been pretty? I don't want to use the word quiet because I know I always get scolded if I say quiet, but
yeah, I would not use the word quiet, especially on the nice days we've had. We've had a number of people out and about, which generated some calls for us. But our officers have handled their share of domestic disputes as well as some other calls, individuals' mental health associated with those.
Very good. Thank you, Michael.
Yes, Mayor.
Pending business, anybody got anything to add about our COVID situation? Questions? Have you heard from the public asking you questions that you don't have answers for? Okay. Well, make sure you let us know. I defer about 90% of the comments I get to the chief because they involve public safety. And I figure let him get it from the horse's mouth and get the right information, and rather than hear it from me and it might be close to being right, but I let the chief take care of that. Move on to new business. Item A, can I get a motion to receive the bids for the highway garage carport construction contract that came in Thursday, April 30th, 2020 at 2 p.m.
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Everybody raise your hand if you approve. So Mo can make sure she's there. There you go.
Yes, and if you could also just say your name when you make the motion.
Okay. Very good.
That worked last time.
Okay, we'll do that again. Item B, discussion possible motion to waive the $100 banner fee for the Ballsville School District. They're requesting to put up a banner be placed on Oswego Street, the wire that goes across Oswego, for the months of May and June to celebrate the class of 2020, which is obviously not going to have their senior ball the graduation, that type of thing. So they've asked that we waive the fee to put that up. Anybody want to make that motion? Anybody want to have a discussion?
I'd like to make that motion.
And it's this Ruth, I'll second it.
All right, any discussion? Anybody have a concern as to why we shouldn't do that or why we should?
I think it's a great idea.
I think they're making arrangements. Have the superintendent and a few up, and I think just a couple others there when the banner is put up, so they could take video and photos while it's happening for Monday morning.
Okay. Any more discussion? All right, all in favor? Dick,
Aye.
I,
opposed? Carried. I think that was unanimous. Couldn't see all the hands, but. Item C, can I get a motion to approve the proposed employee handbook that was revised April 2020? Bruce, you had a concern. Bruce?
I'll make the motion then. Yeah, I have concerns, but don't we have to have a motion in a second?
This is
Okay.
Megan. I'll second it.
All right, now you got discussion.
Okay, I had a chance, I've gone through it. It's a voluminous document. It seems to cover a lot, but something that's grossly absent in my mind is the addendum that was in the existing handbook that defines the disciplinary steps. And without those specifics in place, we're going to be constantly going through grievance procedures and having to interpret every single thing. The steps of discipline, I think, should be part of that.
Yeah, and this is Steve. I've reviewed it and I've provided comments regarding what's there, but I haven't evaluated anything as far as what's not there. And there's a bunch of stuff that's there that I think is not necessary, and there's a lot of stuff that's not there. Or there are things, I won't say it's a lot of stuff, but there are items that I think should be included.
All right, how about if we have,
I'll make a motion that we table the handbook until the next meeting.
good idea?
Hey, can I say a few things?
Yep.
I just think this has been, great. Yes, we'll table it. But I sent it numerous times for comments, and I thought we were finally through it. This has been a task that, a daunting task, and, I hope we can get it through for next time.
Okay.
Because, I wish I had known before that. Because we've been, myself and Mike and Steve have been going back and forth with the company, for a few months now, and we just haven't gotten any feedback. So,
Does everybody on the board have a copy of the handbook?
Yes.
If you would look through and again, it is a big epic type thing to go through and read it all, but at least look at the categories in the front about where everything is located, and see if there's some obvious things. Some of you work in industry and might have a thought on something missing. Read as much of it as you can and so we can have a suggestion or two to make for the next meeting. Maybe you're going to say just add a couple of chapters. We'll make up for what we don't have. Just grab something from the old one and tag it on the end and have it be a part of the document. So for those of you who are pretty good at that kind of stuff, this is a good chance to really shine and help us. It's a lot of stuff to go through, and it's a lot of kind of formal wording in some areas, and the more eyes that are looking at it, the better chance we have to get it right when we finally approve it. So we have a motion and a second to table. Can I get a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That looked unanimous. Okay. Now comes the ugly part. I have a motion. Can I get a motion to proclaim Saturday? It's not ugly, but it's. I have to read a proclamation, and I know everybody gets excited about that. The reason is a good one. Proclaim Saturday, May 30th, 2020 as Memorial Day in the village of Baldwinsville.
This
I'll
is
make
Mark.
that motion.
Mark will second.
All right, and now I will read the proclamation that you've all been waiting for. Whereas Memorial Day is a time to reflect on the past, remembering those who helped guarantee our freedoms, and to set aside a day to remember the accomplishments of men and women of valor and courage. And whereas our founding fathers had the wisdom to assure freedom guaranteed and protected by the Constitution of the United States more than 200 years ago, Americans have answered the call to service, and that honorable service performed in the defense of our nation and her cause in time of war is the highest form of citizenship. And whereas the men and women who served in the armed forces of the Grand Army of the Republic, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Persian Gulf, and now the war in Iraq and Afghanistan have made heroic sacrifices to preserve freedom. And whereas we honor the memory of those killed in action, those who are missing in action, and all who may still be prisoners of war, that they will be returned without delay. We ask for special blessings for those in the Middle East. And whereas the services performed by these millions of gallant Americans have demonstrated the willingness of our nation to meet the challenges of those forces wishing to subjugate individual determination through armed conflict. And whereas the Baldwinsville Memorial Day Committee wishes to keep the traditional day of May 30th as a day to commemorate Memorial Day in Baldwinsville. And whereas Memorial Day was established by General Order Number 11 on 5 May 1868 to commemorate fallen comrades who died in the defense of their country. And whereas we remember veterans of all wars and show our appreciation with our vigilance, if not our presence, we will ensure that they did not die in vain. And therefore, I, Richard Clark, Mayor of the Village of Baldwinsville, County of Onondaga, State of New York, declare Saturday, May 30th, 2020 to be Memorial Day in the Village of Baldwinsville to honor those men and women who paid the ultimate price to preserve the principles of freedom. In witness thereof, I hereby set my hand and cause to be affixed the official seal of the Village of Baldwinsville, Onondaga County, New York, on this is the 8th day of May, right?
7th.
7th day of May, 2020. And I will sign Richard A. Clark upon approval by the board. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Everybody, and I will sign it. Anybody opposed? So that is signed. Anything else we need to address before we pay bills and move on to our executive session? Worked well. Thank you for participating in this session. I hope there were some people watching to take part. I did, from what I gathered with our last meeting, it sounds like we were the first municipal board in this area to ever have a live televised meeting. So we were part of history. We will go to the executive session at 8:15. My wife and I will send you out an email with the link to get to the executive session so we can have our Zoom meeting there. No action anticipated. Can I get a motion to pay bills as, no, that comes afterwards, right? Right. Motion to go to executive session.
Moved. Accepted.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bruce? Okay. Against? Nobody? We're going to executive session. No action anticipated.
Mark,